aspects of the overview of the year, the finances and the quality work we've been going on. I think there is much that citizens of Worcestershire can be pleased and encouraged by, but we are very much on a journey of improvement as part of the foundation group. Over the period at the very end of our financial year, we said for a short period goodbye to our group chief executive, Glenn Burley, and Stephen Coleman bravely stood up to become the acting chief executive for Worcestershire and Wye Valley. And that has allowed us to, over this year, which we'll partly touch on tonight, accelerate a series of pieces of work across the whole of Hereford and Worcestershire, again to the betterment of the healthcare for all of our citizens. We've also seen the 10-year plan arrive more recently, again, which will be part of the questions and answers a bit later. So there is an awful lot happening in the NHS, but there is still much for us to achieve and much for us to do. We have moved from a position as a trust, and the way I would describe it, from being probably in the bottom 5 to 10% of performers within the NHS to now being at about 75 to 80%. So a big jump in performance improvement, but there's still an awful lot to go. And I certainly am ambitious that over the next 3 years, I want Worcestershire Acute to be amongst the top 25% of all acute hospitals in terms of performance. So our citizens will see continuous change and a continuous and relentless drive to improve. So without further ado, I'll move on to invite Stephen Coleman, our Chief Executive, to give his annual report and review of last year. Stephen, over to you.
Thanks. And I'll talk through, the aim is I want to talk through some of the strategic work that we've been doing very quickly, highlight of the operational performance, some of the developments and achievements that we've managed to achieve, but a big focus is actually on the work that we've been doing with our colleagues and staff colleagues around our staff survey and what that told us. And actually there was some really good bits in there, and also a set of values work that we've been doing, and then that will feed into, when we come back next year, the work that we've been doing on the strategy and how we're kind of we roadmap that improvement that you mentioned, Chair, and we take that through. At the heart of all of that is two things for me are the most important. One is that as we go through this, and we'll talk an awful lot about numbers, there's patients at the end of this, and it's patients that need us to step up when they have something that we need to do with them. So although it might be number heavy, please be assured we never forget that. And the second is our colleagues that do it. We have some amazing colleagues doing some amazing things in some really, really difficult circumstances. And our aim is to improve it for them so they can give the care that they've always wanted to, and that Worcestershire wants them to. So I hope that's two thoughts that we'll go through this. And equally, I just wanted to say as well, to echo your comments, Chair, about Mark, as well as for the family, also for colleagues in Health and Care Trust and the ICS that have worked with Mark. I think we've all got to be there for each other at these times. It's really stark, isn't it? And so just that offer of support out there with colleagues in the other organisations. I've got that slide. Thanks, Richard. So when we started our journey in the foundation group with the trust, we very quickly did a 10-point plan, and we worked a lot through that, and Glenn talked about that at the last one. The one thing that's held consistent through, and it holds through all the foundation group, are these what we call big moves and strategic pillars. And even with the 10-point plan, the reason I've got this here, they still hold really, really clear and really ambitious that we need to meet them. And some of them, as you go through, I would pick out the productivity one is immense for this trust. And we use words like productivity, seeing more patients faster in an environment that works for them is key to that one. And getting the care that you need at that speed is really, really important, and will take us through, and we're continuing to do that work now. I mentioned about the workforce. One of the other things that comes through when you look at that list is about prevention and about home first. And one of the strap lines we've got in our new strategy about being more than just the hospitals. It's about being a real part of the community, and hopefully some of the things that you'll see will take you through. But that's one of the kind of journeys that we're on. So this still holds true despite all the changes around us nationally and the direction. I think these are still things that we can put our hats on and kind of take through. So we've got the next slide, thanks. So just wanted to give a summary of the operational performance. Bit of a mixed bag. Certainly around some of the cancer targets we did well, but there has been an improvement to the previous year in most areas. So we had a set of targets that we have or haven't hit, but actually in compared to the year before, there's generally, you can see some improvement, and in some areas quite a bit of a jump. That's not to say that we realise that, again, these aren't patients at the end of it, and we want it to be better and better and better each time. But it just gives a real flavour of kind of how the trust performed. The one that stands out and will still stand out this year is the work and the continual focus we have got to put around our urgent and emergency care pathways. Chair, you frequently tell us at board we've got to bring life into the world safely. We've got to hopefully, when life leaves this world, do it in the best way possible. But the other one that I think is really important, you say, is that when you need us, we are there and we deal with it. And I think that's the focus that we've got to continue to put on that. Go to the next slide. So I just wanted to kind of bring to life some of the work that the teams have been doing. And a lot of this has been through their ideas. So the one that I'm really pleased with on this slide is around that urology investigation unit, which was an idea from the clinical team. They saw a need, they put the case to us, we supported it, and it's really starting to bear fruit in terms of patient outcomes. The Community Diagnostic Centre, I think, will be increasingly important over the next few years. That programme is one that is probably likely to continue, so the Trust is still using the learning from that, and we want to keep taking that forward. So ideally, the access to diagnostics is a lot easier across wherever you are in Worcestershire. But Kidderminster as a place, as a real vibrancy, it's really delivering for the Trust. And the other one that links to is its surgical hub accreditation, which not only is really good because it got it for children and adults, but it's actually really rare that it was able to achieve that. And Kidderminster gets talked about nationally. So the Girthley, Tim Briggs will often use Kidderminster as an example of where it can be really, really good. So I think sometimes people get a bit fixated on what services are in what area, but they are real Worcestershire resources delivering for the county. So they've been brilliant. They continue to go from strength to strength. Go to the next slide, thanks. So a lot of these cover the work that we've done around urgent and emergency care. And I say that and recognising we have still got an awful lot to do. So we've got a single point of access that we've put in. And again, that's going from strength to strength. And we were one of the first in the country to do that. So where you can, if a GP has a query or they want to send you into the hospital or a paramedic or another health professional, they've got somewhere to ring. We do it jointly with the Health and Care Trust, so it's a community and acute together, and we try and signpost people to the right way. So hopefully you get to the right place first time, and we can decompress and not send people on that traditional route through ED. And the pit stop, we're really pleased with how that's developed. And again, we're subject to a lot of national attention around that, potentially award-winning, don't want to prejudge it. But there's a lot of work. And our same-day emergency care office, so the old ED, now has the aesthetics of medical, surgical, and the other thing that we developed around our cardiology heart centre, which is really, really good. You mentioned about the money. So for the first time in a long time, the Trust had a really challenging financial target and we hit it. Again, with the new framework, the new world around us, that is increasingly, and we've got an even bigger challenge to go up this year, but we're working through that. And then really, really pleasing, we're one of the few trusts that got the Gold Award for our commitment to our armed forces and the Covenant and people who've served the country, what we look and aspire to help both in terms of colleague experience and patients. experience. And Rebecca, who's on the gallery, is our digital lead, is really passionate about that and really drives it forward. So just want to say a massive thank you to the team involved in that. If I go on, we've got a bit around the staff survey now. So it was one of the things that we were really, really mindful of. And of all the indicators we've got, this is one that we think is probably the most important, because it's a direct staff telling you what they feel about the organisation and what they understand about it and what they want to see do better. I think it was fair to say when we from the previous year, we were in the pack, but we were low. We were at the lower end, and one of the things we were particularly concerned about was the response rate, which in itself is an indicator of how engaged the staff are. So Ali and team did a great deal of work, purple t-shirts everywhere, training around the place, really promoting the staff survey. And we were really pleased to see that big increase on the response rate. But we're not complacent. That got us to pretty much an average or just above average position. So we want to go even further this year. And hopefully with the work we've done, staff will start to be able to say, we said this needed fixing, this needed doing and prioritising, and this is what we've done as an organisation. Next slide, thanks. So I won't go through all of these. The ones that I have a personal interest in, and I know we as an executive team are really, really focusing on, is the 2 scores that are in there. And I'm involved in the developing the NHS plan around workforce, and I keep lobbying this really hard. That if our colleagues are recommending us as a place to work or recommending us as a place to treatment, that's a real health indicator of the organisation. And they built on that, so we're on an improving journey on that. Really pleasing to see there was a lot of scores and we were one of the most improved nationally. That just means we've got more to do. But the big thing for me is the learning that we were able to take, because we had more colleagues telling us that we could then move on to. So the issues were not unusual and we have made big progress. Car parking, food and nutrition, that kind of thing. Next slide, thanks. And importantly, and I kind of want to thank the board as well for this. So we came, I know when I came and started and we started having discussions around it, there was quite a well-established brand in the trust forward, and it had signature behaviours and it was well embedded in the trust. But one of the things that we took from colleagues was around resetting really a set of values and behaviours. And what I was really pleased with the board was we didn't put any limit on that. We didn't go in with a kind of, here's your starter for 10 and what do you think to it. We genuinely took what colleagues were telling us and built it up from them. And this is the kind of work that we did on that. So for people that may be watching and members of the public and others, this is how we've developed it. So what you see there is not some management thing. That is what our staff told us. When we're at our best, that's what they see and that's what they want us to develop. So just to give a feel for that, and again, it signalled a different approach in the trust about when we've got issues or we want to improve something, the best ones to go to are our colleagues, and we ask them and engage them around. So just wanted to put a big shout to that. That work is continuing, like I said, is now underpinned the new strategy you've got. We'll report on next year. Next slide. I think that might be my section, Chair. Happy to take any questions if there's any.
Shall we take questions at the end? I think, Stephen.
You're on mute, Russell.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me? Okay. So I'll shout. Thank you, Stephen, for that. We'll take questions at the end, if that's okay, from any members of the public who want to ask any questions. But we'll move on to the money. The situation in the NHS, as you will have seen from the national press, is one of continued financial pressure, with the NHS being forced to address 4 really big challenges, each of which on their own would be a big ask. The first is the strong growth in our population as a country. The second is the increased amount of frail elderly people we have in our population as we age. The third is the high levels of obesity amongst our population and the growing rates of obesity. And the fourth is, frankly, the mental health crisis, particularly amongst our young. The NHS would be challenged to address any one of those big challenges. We're being asked to address all 4 at the same time. So Neil and the rest of the team in managing the money have a really demanding task. So Neil, how are we doing, please?
Yeah, thanks very much, Chair. So the financial performance for 24-25, we were set against that context, Chair, a very challenging financial position, and that required us to put together a cost and productivity improvement programme of £45.1 million. And to put that into context, that's 5.6% of our turnover, which is a significant ask. Previously, we delivered 2 to 3%, and the national efficiency measure is generally between 1 and 2% overall. So significant achievement there in respect of what the organisation delivered last financial year. So we were able to achieve our plan. That was in the context of largely block contracts. The national funding model was pretty much based on here, have some money, a block element of money, deliver all of the targets, all of the services within that, with the exception of elective services. That led us to a plan, a £5.7 million deficit. Pleased to report that we were able to deliver that plan, and we returned the year with a £5.5 million deficit, so £200,000 better than we had planned. And again, that was all thanks to some significant hard work across the whole organisation on delivery of £45.1 million of cost and productivity improvement schemes. So particularly well done to all in terms of that achievement. We invested within capital, some £27.4 million. We were successful in securing some additional funds into the organisation, £12.4 million, and we are very keen as ever to take on more resources nationally, bid for more funds with an ever-ageing estate and some requirements for new equipment and new programmes of work. So spent £27.4 million, some important works in terms of the fire safety schemes over at the Alex, and replacement concrete for the reinforced autoclaved aerated roof remediation work over at Kidderminster, and significant investment in frontline digitalisation initiatives as well. Also at the same time, investing in building maintenance and our equipment replacement programmes. So overall, in terms of the criteria for success in terms of our financial performance, we did achieve our plan for the year. We did have a planned deficit, and therefore we didn't break even in terms of our I&E position, taking one year with another. We did remain within our capital resource limit, and indeed we had sufficient cash in the bank to remain within our external financing limit at the end of the year. So overall, a very successful year from a financial perspective against that very difficult concept and backdrop. Next slide, please. So in terms of where we spend our resources and where we are getting the income from in terms of generating the income, very much largely, as you can see there in the rust part of the graph, ICB is predominantly 78% of our income, some £629 million. The bulk of that, as I've mentioned, is block related. It's closely followed by NHS England with £134 million, again, very much largely on block arrangements. And you can see there that we do get a significant chunk of money in respect of education and training. And we also have income from non-patient care services as well. In terms of where that goes, you can see there by far and away, staff is our asset. And that's predominantly where the money goes, £497 million. Clinical supplies and services, you can see there, £69.28 million, and drugs, and then some significant spend in respect of our estates in terms of premises depreciation and the PFI costs associated with that. And we do spend £23 million in respect of our clinical negligence insurance scheme. Just put some of that into context. Next slide, please. So we are audited annually in terms of our financial statements and in terms of our value for money. In terms of the financial statements, pleased to say that the accounts were submitted on time. The auditors said it's probably one of the best audits that they've undertaken for some time. So really pleased with my team in terms of their ability to get the accounts out on time and the quality of the accounts. True and fair view of the Trust's financial position, clean bill of health, so an unqualified opinion there. In respect of value for money, you can see there that we're still not able to pass the test in terms of financial sustainability and improving economy efficiency and effectiveness. However, this will be the second year where we've seen significant improvements. In respect of financial sustainability, we've reduced the number of significant weaknesses. We're down to 1, and that is very much in terms of identifying and delivering recurrent savings and looking forward, looking out for the next 3 years. And in terms of the recommendation, that's very much around working together with system partners on building a sustainable future. All of that work is in train. We've got an improvement director, financial improvement director working with us, and we're looking ahead in terms of that three-year programme. And indeed, the requirement on the NHS now is to put together a five-year plan. In terms of governance, please say no significant weaknesses, a couple of small recommendations in respect of publication of gifts and hospitality, which we've done, and in respect of improving staff compliance with policies and procedures. And the final one, in terms of economy efficiency and effectiveness, building on the work to reduce our reliance on agency. And again, we've got stronger controls in place. You can see an improvement trajectory in our agency coming down. Still not there yet, much more work to do, but hopefully you'll see that there is positive progress in terms of offering better value for money for patients across all of those headings. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Neil, and thank you to everyone in the whole of the organisation for that quite extraordinary level of cost and productivity improvement that was delivered last year. We know these things don't happen by accident. They occur by the ingenuity and innovation and teamwork of our frontline teams. So thank you. Thank you for that presentation, Neil. We'll move on then. As well as the money being important to us, for the citizens that we serve, for our patients and their families, the quality that we deliver is utmost and paramount in their minds. And so I'm delighted to welcome Jules, our Chief Medical Officer, to give us a highlights of the quality journey that we've been on last year and continue onwards. Jules, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. And I'm presenting on behalf of myself and the Chief Nurse. Obviously, our new Chief Nurse has joined us very recently, so I didn't think it was fair to throw her under the bus at this very early stage. So I have elected to present this evening. So our quality account for 24-25, we undertook a quality programme that quality and safety plan that covered a range of years from 22 to 25. So this was the last year in that programme. As a reminder, quality in the NHS is made up of 3 key components. We need to ensure that care is safe for our patients, is clinically effective, and is a positive experience for those that utilise our services. So during 24-25, we've built on the focus areas we set ourselves over the last year, and we've accounted for these in our annual quality account, which was published on the Trust website on the 27th of June and is there, therefore, for people to see and to review. And following recommendations from Healthwatch colleagues, Healthwatch Worcestershire, following last year's quality account, this year we've published our first summary quality account, which selects just some of the important information for the public and people reviewing that to see in a summarised form, which we're pleased to be able to share. Thank you. So quality journey. So this slide just highlights our kind of roadmap to improving quality that we've been on, very much led and driven through our nursing colleagues. Our work streams that the Nursing, Midwifery, Allied Health Professionals Board commenced in 23 have continued with developments today that you can see on the screen there in front of you. The roadmap, I said, summarises the work that the teams have done, and I just wanted particularly to pull out the Fundamentals of Care Committee, which has been very much strengthened over the last year or two, and reports divisionally in to how the basic needs of our patients are being met, which I think is really important, and that's shown some real improvement in the quality of care that we are delivering. So I think that is something that is to be highlighted. And also the Care Excellence Accreditation Programme, which is a programme that monitors and assesses our clinical areas in how they are delivering care to our patients and the quality that they're achieving. And that's been very successful and is now being rolled out into other areas, including the emergency departments, paediatrics, gynecology and critical care, which I think again is a really important step forward. In terms of the Care Quality Commission, so as an organisation, we maintain our registrations with our regulator, the Care Quality Commission. Our overall trust rating remains as requires improvement, but the trust does continue to be rated as good in the effective and caring domains. Over the last 12 months, or during 24-25, the CQC have implemented a single assessment framework for assessing services. So that's a slightly different way of undertaking these assessments. And over that period, we as a trust have had 4 assessments of our services under that new framework. And these are summarised for you here on this slide. So in May 24, the CQC carried out an inspection of our urgent and emergency care services at Worcestershire Royal Hospital. Particular thing that we needed to focus on for improvement in that area was our waiting times, which won't be a surprise, I don't think, to anybody kind of present here this evening or who has utilised that service. We're aware of that. And if I just reflect you back to the slides that Mr. Coleman presented at the beginning, we're aware that waiting times and urgent and emergency care delivery is an area that we do need to focus on and continue to focus on to make sure the quality that we're delivering for our patients is good or better than good. In August 24, our stroke services were reviewed, and again, capacity, flow and ensuring patients could access the service effectively was one of the feedbacks from that visit. So that again feeds into that theme that we need to make sure we're focusing on, which we continue to do. In September 24, our services for children and young people at Kidderminster were reviewed, and I'm pleased to say that improvements were seen in 4 domains during that visit. So improvements were seen in the safe, effective, responsive and well-led domains, which led to an increase overall of that service being rated now as good in all domains. And in October 24, a review of the Alexandra Hospital and to review children and young people services again showed some improvements in the safe, effective and well-led domains, which led again to an overall rating of good for that service. I'm pleased to say that we didn't see any decreases in any of our domains during these 4 assessments across the organisation, but as I've pointed out, recognising there are still improvements that we do need to make with a particular focus on waiting times for our patients. So our quality account of 24-25, so this just gives a summary of the progress against those quality priorities. I'm not going to read the slide, but it's there for you to review as you wish. And as I said, it is also there fully published from June of this year. We set ourselves a number of priorities to focus on during 24-25, and those as were laid out under those quality domains, the safe, effective and a positive experience domains. We've provided a summary evaluation of this as previously mentioned, but there's also a combination of the data-driven targets and also a narrative to describe how we've improved for those non-data-driven measures to highlight our progress through the year. We've made positive progress in all areas. It would be disingenuous of me to say we've achieved all of the targets we set out for ourselves for that 12 months, but there's certainly been a good improvement in all of the areas with compliance with the targets that we set in a good number of those domains. So I would encourage people to have a look and have a read through. There's a lot of information in there. So please do that. Thank you, Richard. So priorities moving forward. So obviously we've reset our priorities now for the 25-26 year. We want to make sure that we are recognising the hard work of our teams to continue to deliver those improvements. We've built on the quality priorities that we set for last year, but we've made some changes in collaboration with engagement from our patients, relatives and carers through our quality conversations, and also talking to staff, volunteers and partners. So we've included others' views and the views of the people utilising our services and experiencing our services to help drive those quality priorities going forward. Particular things that we're looking to change is we have brought in more key performance indicators, so essentially metrics, so quality metrics that are data driven for those key performance indicators or quality priorities that have a numerical indicator. So we've built in good metrics there so we can hold ourselves to account for the care that we're delivering. There's a particular focus on providing good care at the end of life, which has already been mentioned by Mr. Coleman. So again, that's another big focus for us in this year coming. We've chosen to move our clinical audit and quality improvement elements into more of a business as usual framework rather than being a quality priority, because we've had good progress in that area and assured that we are continuing to perform well in that. So we have moved that into a business as usual kind of structure, and that will be monitored through other forums. We've also chosen to make sure that we are aligning nationally and across the foundation group with some of these priorities and the metrics, obviously with a particular focus on waiting times, as previously mentioned, highlighting that we're aware that that is one of our quality improvements that we really do need to get some traction on over the next 12 months. Thank you, Chair. I think that was all I wanted to say on the quality account.
No, thank you, Jules. And I know you will also want to thank Sarah Shingler, who was our Chief Nurse Officer during this period, who's now gone down to Wye Valley Trust as our new Managing Director. But Hayley, thank you for, on an interim basis, standing in as our Chief Nurse Officer, only 17 days in and thrown into the deep end with this annual general meeting. Thank you, Jules. So we have had some questions from members of the public presented to us. I'll also, Chris, I think you're the only member of the public who is with us digitally, although there are, I know, a number of people watching the live stream. So if you want to ask us anything afterwards, you're very welcome. But Gwenny, do you want to read out, or Joe, the questions that we've been asked?
Yeah, I can read those out. We've had 4 questions from the Patient and Public Forum, and I'm hopeful that Rosemary, the chair, is watching on our live stream. The first question is about the AGM format. The forum is disappointed that we're continuing to have it on this format and that we've not gone back in person. And they understand that that is because they feel it gives more equal access to the public, but wondering if there's any evidence of that.
Yeah, I think that the best evidence for that is when you look, and you can look at Newsstream. If you take the last 2 years of annual general meetings, we've had on average 150 people view the annual general meeting on the through YouTube. That level of access is far greater than we would even possibly imagine if we had a physical meeting. And I think also, and certainly I see this in different annual general meetings that I chair, and I would expect it to be true in Worcestershire as well. If you're disabled or finding it difficult to be as mobile as one would want, being able to access digitally meetings like this is a real benefit to people who are less mobile. And so I am certainly aware that the digital format is very helpful for those. I do understand that you lose the sort of soft relationships that chat over a cup of coffee, which a physical meeting allows. But overall, my assessment is still that it's better to do the meetings digitally. And we're getting quite a lot of background noise. But Gwenny, the second question, please.
So the second question was about the 10-year health plan, which was recently launched by the government, the thrust of which was to progressively move the provision of healthcare in the direction of community centres and away from acute trusts. And they're asking whether we can describe the short-term impact on our trust during the rest of this year and what we anticipate will be the impact next year. For example, have we been notified that our capital allocation will be curtailed next year?
Stephen.
Yeah, so I'll deal with that first bit. So no, we haven't. One of the things that's really good about the way that the 10-year plan and the new frameworks are going to operate for the trust is that we will be talking about allocations in multi-year. We've all been really, really frustrated to a degree about the way that a lot of capital has flowed to the trust. So you start with it and then bits come through the year. And I know members of the patient forum have asked Neil and I a number of questions on those when they're on the meetings about that. So no, we haven't. We've still got the capital allocation that we have. I think there's two important things to take out of the 10-year plan regards the left shift. So absolutely, we are committed to working with our place partners, so that's health and care, trust colleagues with primary care who are exceptionally important in this, about working through over the next probably 6 months what that looks like. There'll be some services that we're already doing that we're thinking about doing differently. So I'm going to give a plug to our integrated therapies work that we heard at Trust Board, and has been a sticking point for years in this system of therapists being here and therapists being in the community trust. So we've got some examples of that. The other bit, though, is there will be a left shift from some of our tertiary partners and how medicine develops, but we also need to think about how that will be done here, which again will be brilliant for Worcestershire patients that don't have to travel miles and miles everywhere, going all over. So we're thinking about that as well. So I think what you'll start to see is a roadmap emerging over the next 6 months of where we see that shift happening, how we think it will be enabled by both workforce and finance. But there will still be plenty of work, and we're all absolutely committed that we are not going to be that acute trust that we all know in the past got really difficult, tried to suck everything in and was a bit of a blocker at the end to this. This is absolutely the right thing to do. And we've got pockets of population that we see, frailty, that they're coming through the UEC pathway, which if we can do it better and more upstream is much, much better for them, better for colleagues and better for the trust overall. So I think it will emerge over the next 6 months.
Thanks, Tim. Just a couple of points I would add. We use our very expensive healthcare pound in arguably a quite inefficient way in the UK. It costs over £400 a night to keep someone in an acute. It costs about £200 to keep them in a care home. It costs about £50 for domiciliary care, and it costs nothing if people are able to look after themselves at home. So at the moment, today, we will have about 65, potentially up to 100 people who are medically fit for discharge, where there isn't available social care capacity or an sufficiently efficient flow system to get people home into a cheaper healthcare setting. The acutes need to be delivering what it says in the name, only episodic acute care. It is the most expensive place to deliver healthcare. So there is a real need across the health and social care system to work more efficiently together over the next 4 years in particular, to get people to have the minimum length of stay in the acute. Jules mentioned in her presentation hospital-acquired functional decline. That is a real reality for our frail elderly. We want them to be in the healthcare system, which is best for their health outcomes, but also, quite helpfully for the taxpayer, often is a cheaper place for them to be. We're going to the next question. Gwenny, I had to turn off your mic because there's quite a lot of background noise at your end. The third question, Gwenny?
Yeah. What benefit has the Trust had from a patient experience point of view from being part of the Foundation Group?
Stephen, do you want to go again and then I'll follow?
Yeah, so I would put this onto 2 strands really. One is where we've had fragile services, we've been able to support each other. So patients in both Worcestershire and Wye Valley have seen a direct benefit from that. Patients around stroke, the stroke services are moving really progressively now, and that's not just the foundation group, that's with the Health and Care Trust again. We did have some difficulties with dermatology that Wye Valley have been helping us with. So from a direct patient getting a service and a better outcome, the two trusts have been working together. The chair alluded to that at the start. That is only going to grow now, and that's going to go at real pace. And we've got a number of services that we are talking with about how they will support and accelerate that. The other one that's probably harder to quantify but really goes under the radar is around improvement. So every one of us is really focused on improvement. And Wye Valley and South Warwickshire, George Eliot, and ourselves are all brilliant at different things. And to give an example, we held an operational conference a few months ago. And one of the examples that came out was it was called a Diamond Patient Initiative. We won't get into the detail of what it was, but every trust listening to that then went away and did it. And that means now on our elective list, we are seeing more patients because of an initiative we learned somewhere else. And there's plenty of examples of that. That's something that we've really got to go hard at. So the patient experience bit is that improvement is starting to come through. But there are some real service examples where we've worked together and we've been able to help and support, which gives better patient care.
Yeah, absolutely, Stephen. The mantra of the foundation group is identification and sharing of best practice at pace, and that's certainly been absorbed over the last couple of years since Worcestershire Acute joined the foundation group. And Gwynnie, back with you.
This is the final question we've received. We note that changes in the executive team happen frequently, despite the Trust previously stating that stability in the executive team is desirable. How does the Trust endeavour to retain their executive team?
Stephen, you go first and I'll go.
Just thinking I can answer for them, but you'll judge it by the reaction when I'm saying it, as whether I'm getting it right. So I do recognise we have had some executive change. Some of that does happen. Some of it, though, I mean, we've mentioned Sarah and others, so we've had some retirement, but we've had people who've got promotion. We did have a number of people as well that used to travel a lot and have made different choices about that as we've gone through. So I think we are in a position, I say that looking at the team, where we've got a settled and a stable exec team. A number of people, it's not the most important factor, but a number of people have either been in the trust for a long time. This is their trust. I include myself in that, living in Bromsgrove and others, so Jules, Julian, and others are close, so this is their. So I think we're on a period where we will have a stable exec team now. We've kind of gone through that, and I am mindful that Hayley is looking in with Chris as well, but those positions will be filled within the next few weeks. We've got interview processes running for them.
I would answer it in the following way. The harsh reality of performance is it always boils down to the quality of people. And it's beholden on myself, Stephen, Glenn, to ensure that for the citizens of Worcestershire, we have the most competent, hardworking, best values group of individuals in the executive team, which can drive the performance that the citizens of Worcestershire deserve. And that's what we're very focused on. Thank you, Gwynnie. Thank you for the patient forum for those questions. Chris Byrne, our Health Watch Worcestershire colleague, is unable to talk on audio, but he's written in the chat box, just for completeness, have read the presentation. All I would add is to please continue to engage with the public and charities in the co-production of new solutions. Absolutely, Chris. At its simplest, two minds are better than one, but Healthwatch have done a quite outstanding job for a long while at providing the independent voice of the citizen. I am worried that part of the 10-year plan sees Healthwatch no longer being independently funded, and therefore we will be looking at ways of ensuring that we can work with Healthwatch in whatever form it has in the future, because that independent voice of the citizen and the patient is very important to ensure that we're doing what we what you want us to do in the way you want us as citizens for us to do it. And it's a lot of an independent voice, Chris writes, that concerns us as well. Me too, Chris. So it's not as though you're in any way isolated from that. I wholeheartedly agree. I think that brings us to the end of the questions. I just want to make a few closing remarks. And the first is that I hope members of the public, either watching now or in the future, will gain some confidence and assurance that the improvement journey that Worcestershire Acute is on is starting to bear fruit. That really doesn't happen by accident. It happens by the individual and collective efforts of everyone that works within the organisation, but particularly under the direction and leadership of the executive director. So I do really want to thank all of the executive directors for the work you do, and to thank your families, and to my frontline staff family members. They will share the burdens and stresses that you have. I know, for example, executive directors, when they're on call, often have interrupted sleep as an emergency issue arises, and that affects the whole sort of family. So executive directors, please accept my thanks on behalf of the whole board, and please go back to your families and say thank you to them as well. And to my non-executive colleagues, some of whom are on the line, you'll never become rich becoming a non-executive in the NHS, that's for sure. But the work that the non-execs do as a critical friend, and using their experience to help the executives to achieve ever higher performance, is something that I greatly admire amongst the non-execs at Worcestershire Acute. So to those who are with me tonight, and for those who unfortunately have sent apologies, thank you very much. So I look forward, hopefully, to seeing members of the public at the next board meeting, which is in October. Then we've got our full board meeting where we bring together all of the foundation group to a meeting in November. So members of the patient forum who were asking us that question about what are the benefits of the foundation group, I suggest you come along to that meeting and hold our feet to the fire, so to speak. In the meantime, can I ask each of you to take care, look after your loved ones, be kind to one another, and be kind to yourself. There's lots of people who on a daily basis struggle with some of the simplest things for the rest of us in life. So always, as a kindly citizen, look after one another. Take care, everyone. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.